Well, Josh, the Bisons are taking on Rochester for the second series of the season, and it's been an exciting throughway cup matchup so far. How have your impressions of the Bisons so far been over now about 10 games of action against Rochester?
Yeah, they've been impressive. In Trenton in May, the pitching was terrific overall in that series. There were guys that were hot at the plate. I mean, Buffalo's had some players that have been kind of wings killers over the years, like Breivik Valera, who was big in the series in Trenton, and now he's back. And Christian Cologne had a huge series back in May in Trenton. Forrest Wall was really good. So I think Buffalo has been really impressive. And it seems like Rochester's had the misfortune over the last number of years to play with the unbalanced schedule, one of the better teams in the league a lot. And this year the Wings in Buffalo are supposed to play 30 times, so that hasn't worked out in the Wings' favor too well so far.
You mentioned some of the veterans, and I think that's one of the things, and we've talked about it when we've seen each other at the ballpark. Veterans and those free agents that the Blue Jays are now signing, whether it was back in 2019, going out and finding guys like Socrates Brito on a trade and ending up in Buffalo. That's one of the things I think going forward is in the Bison's favor is guys like Valera, you mentioned, Christian Cologne signed out of independent baseball. They're nice pieces to round out a lineup when you've got some prospects in it, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you look back at some of those really good Buffalo teams from the Cleveland days, even I think that's kind of what they did there. They had the really good Cleveland prospects, but then they added in the good free agents, which it seems like those are the teams that win the most in AAA, right? The teams that have the good young prospects that have been around in an organization, but then they fill in with the really good free agents. The trick is finding those right free agents, which I think sometimes is kind of like finding lightning in a bottle. It just sometimes is kind of how it works out, the luck of the draw, so to speak, and if you sign the right guys. But it seems like Buffalo certainly is on the right track.
One of those guys, Juan Gretel, someone we've seen a lot, not only in Buffalo, but in Rochester as well. And it seems like he's found a new lease on life behind the plate, doesn't it?
Well, he looks great, man. I mean, honestly, he's lost a lot of weight. He looks like he's in great shape. If you didn't know it was him, he's almost unrecognizable physically. I mean, our PR guy, Nate Rowan, told you and me the other day that when he came up to the plate in the first game of this series, he told everybody in the press box, hold on, this isn't Gradwell. He didn't recognize him. And he wasn't joking. But, Juan played well for the Wings. I think it was in 2018 and got called up to Minnesota. And then he was going to be a Red Wing in 2020 had there been a season. He was with the Twins on another minor league deal in 2020, but then of course there wasn't a season. So he's playing really, really well for Buffalo right now. And he's, the kind of guy you're talking about, very good behind the plate. I think he's really good with pitchers, and he's always been able to put the bat on the ball and get hits.
And for a team that has a lot of young pitching, I think that could be so valuable to have a veteran like Guerrero, like you mentioned, just working with the pitchers and kind of, maybe helping them through certain situations.
Yeah, and I think if you look over his numbers early on in his career, I don't think he hit nearly as well as he kind of has lately. That's what kind of kept him around. I think the fact that he was a really good catcher, and he was as known for good defense behind the plate and helping pitchers out. So that's kind of what I think kept him around for a long time. And now he's just become just a really solid veteran player all the way around. I'm really happy for the guy. He always seemed like a good dude, and he's really having a good season.
And when we talk about some of the position players, the young talent for the Bisons, you've seen Kevin Smith up front. You've seen Logan Warmoth, Colin Large. Here's some players that, as we talk to other people in the organization, they didn't necessarily know where they would fit going forward. But, what have you maybe thought of some of those younger players that hadn't seen AAA before in your impressions in a small sample size?
Well, Smith has been really good, obviously. I mean, he's hot right now, but and I know his defense is supposed to be pretty good, but you add in the fact that he's putting up big time offensive numbers right now, and that sounds like a pretty good prospect. I mean, he's hitting with power, he's stealing bases, so he's doing really well. Colin Large is somebody I'd never really heard of before, and he's played really well against the Red Wings, playing multiple positions, and so it seems like the Blue Jays have some pieces there. Of course, their major league team has a bunch of young position players who are maybe going to be locked in with the Blue Jays for a long time. So you just wonder where those guys would fit in at the major league level with Toronto. But if they're stuck in Buffalo, that's good news for the Bisons.
No doubt about it. As we look at the Thruway Cup rivalry, and unfortunately, so far you haven't been able to come to Salem Field this year. But for folks that have maybe made the trek to Frontier Field, new affiliation for the Rochester Red Wings going forward. How has the transition over the past several months, going from the Twins organization now to the Nationals, been for your front office?
I think it's been fairly seamless. I mean, I'm just happy that we're playing, that was the big concern for me. I mean, by the end of 2019 and moving into 2020, we had started to hear rumors that maybe the Twins were going to try to finagle a way to get St. Paul as their affiliate, even though the Saints had been an independent league team. And I'm not even positive the Saints for a long time really wanted to be affiliated with anybody, but the Twins convinced them it was going to be a good move for them, and I think it ultimately will be. So, we were kind of on the outside looking in, and the Nationals, fortunately for Rochester, decided to come here as their AAA affiliate, which made a lot more sense for them because they had been stuck out in Fresno in 2019. But so far, it's been pretty good. It helps the fact that Matthew LeCroy, who's the manager, played for the Red Wings in 2007. So at least there was somebody there that we already knew and had relationships with. There are a couple of guys in the team that played with the Red Wings as Twins farmhands, most notably Daniel Palka. But it has been interesting, from my perspective, for so many years working with the same organization and knowing a lot of the players as they come back. It's been different, it certainly has been different trying to figure everything out. But, again, the bottom line to me is just the fact that we're playing games this year, and it really wouldn't have mattered who we were affiliated with to me.
And add in the fact that in this era of COVID-19 and there being no season last year, your front office, I don't think, really had a lot of time to foster a new relationship. And so it's you can tell me better, but it's kind of one of those things where, are you guys sort of learning as an affiliate on the fly as we go here in 2021?
Yeah, I think so. I know, for example, you only meet people over Zoom primarily, like Mike Rizzo, the GM of the Nationals, and the guy who's basically in charge of the minor leagues, Mark Shalaba. They haven't been into Rochester. I think Mark Shalaba is going to come in during this next home series with Worcester. That'll be the first time I believe he'll ever have set foot at Frontier Field. So it definitely is a little bit different. That's for sure.
And how has the fan reception been since the announcement came this past off season?
It's difficult for me to tell really at this point. I think again they're just happy we're playing games. I think that was kind of at the forefront of everybody's mind more than anything else. You know how fans are. I mean, especially around here with long-term franchises like Rochester and Buffalo, a lot of the hardcore fans like winning teams and championships and playoffs. And the Red Wings have certainly played up the fact that the franchise has won 10 Governor's Cup championships. Well, they haven't won one since 1997. And even though a lot of really good players came through here as Twins farmhands, the team didn't win a title as a Twins affiliate, only went to the playoffs twice. I think the Twins were a really good organization to work with, and I like dealing with them a lot. A lot of the fans, though, I think, quite frankly, were happy to see the Twins leave and have another organization come in, just because of that. Now, a lot of fans don't have any clue what's happening, quite frankly. You know what I mean? I mean, let's just be honest. And hey, that's how it works out. Not only one team wins every year. There are a lot of factors involved, and like I said, with the lightning in the bottle thing, I've always felt that. Not to go off on a tangent, Pat, but winning in AAA is like catching lightning in a bottle a lot of times, man. And especially in the old IL North days, and the Bisons fans have known about this now recently too. Scranton has been so good year in and year out. It's tough to win in this division because they've just been terrific year in and year out. And Lehigh Valley lately had been really good. So, the Red Wings had a couple of years there where they won 80 games. And as you know, Pat, when you win 80 games in a season in the minor leagues, normally you're in the playoffs. The Wings had back-to-back seasons where they won 80 games and didn't make the playoffs because Scranton and Lehigh Valley were so good. So I don't know. I just kind of twisted myself around there a little bit, but I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I don't have any idea how the fans are taking it so far.
But I think your point is a valid one, because if the affiliation with the Nationals can even come close to what it was with the Twins, or even prior affiliations going previous to that, where you have prospects come through the organization and for the Nationals, maybe developing talent through the draft of the next couple of years, then that's a reassessment of how well your affiliation is going prior to, the past 20 years where it was winning is the most important part of it, and winning is still important, but it's developing those players, as we've seen in Buffalo recently. You can look at the big three with Vladdy, Bo, and Kevin.
Well, and the thing with the Red Wings too, that's different from so many other minor league franchises. We've been around forever, like Buffalo has, but the Nationals now are only the fourth affiliate the Wings have ever had. I mean, they were with the Cardinals forever, the Orioles forever, the Twins for almost 20 years. So there's really no other minor league ball club that I know of that has only had four affiliates over the course of basically 100 years. I mean, that's crazy. So, these fans get used to basically seeing the same organization in here for long stretches. So there definitely is a transition. And I think, over the course of time, there were starting to develop some Twins fans in Rochester. It took some time, but now, the Twins are out of here. And now one of the things the Red Wings are trying to do is foster fans of the Nationals, hoping to make that transition into Nationals fans something that takes form here too.
And Josh, now we're almost 2 full months into the season. We're getting close to middle to late June. I know the season started a month late, but how has the league adjusted in terms of from the games you saw up close and personal through the first month, whether it be pitching dominating the hitting like we normally see in April, to where we are now and how things have kind of maybe settled out almost 2 months in?
Yeah, I think it's normalized a little bit. Quite frankly, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, the baseball was pretty bad. And I think that was all across the minor leagues. And that had to be because of the fact that so many guys just hadn't played in a year or more. And so the walks were up. The games did not feature very good defense at all. And now you can see across the league, the level of walks has started to drop. I think the defense in general has gotten better. The games have gotten crisper and are just better games aesthetically. So I think it definitely has normalized some. It was puzzling the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, though, to see how, quite frankly, how bad the games were. And I think we just have to attribute it to the fact that these guys hadn't played in so long. And I think it was a good lesson to some of these front office people that maybe feel like playing games isn't as important. That some teams probably liked how they could bring guys up in 2020 from the alt sites and thought it was okay. I think we've learned it wasn't okay. I mean, the caliber of baseball is better if guys are playing games. It only makes sense. And so I think that's one good lesson we've learned from this, hopefully.
And from your perspective, now you're traveling with the team in the Red Wings, and things are starting to get back to normal. How has your interaction with players maybe changed from what the start of the season and some of the restrictions? Once teams get to that 85% threshold and sort of normalize, how is your ability to call a game, interact with players, get information the way we used to prior to 2020 kind of settled?
Well, I've been really, really lucky because from the get-go, I was one of the few broadcasters that was allowed to travel with the team. I got tier 2 status, found out 2 hours before we left for the first road trip that I could travel on the bus and everything. So there were a handful of us like that. Why I was fortunate enough to be one of those people, I don't know, but I think the Nationals had a part to do with that. They were okay with me traveling. I know the AA announcer for the Nationals also was able to travel from the get-go. So for me, things have been pretty normal from the start. I was sure to wear a mask in the dugout and in the clubhouse and things like that when I would go talk to players. But now I think the Nationals are at the level where they don't have to wear masks in the clubhouse or the dugout, things like that. So don't have to do it anymore. In fact, now the players that are vaccinated and people like me in the tier 2 level that are vaccinated, we don't even have to test anymore, which is cool. So it's gotten better over the course of time, but I've been lucky, I've been able to travel from the start and I feel very fortunate about that.
And I was in Rochester the other day, taking the Bisons in Red Wings on a Friday night. Zach Logue was on the mound for Buffalo, but I was as impressed as I was with Zach. It was great to see fans back at the stadium at Frontier Field, about 3,400 fans on Friday night. How has, since the season has started, the fan interactions been and the increase in capacity been at Frontier Field?
Well, it's getting better and better. I think we'd all like to have bigger crowds. I think it's been slow for crowds coming back, and it's been around the league. I've noticed, Lehigh Valley, where they jam them in there. Typically, they haven't been drawing fans the way that they typically have. So whatever the factors are, fans have not come back quite yet the way that we would hope. I would say that fans that are in the ballpark are more energetic, maybe, than in the past. Quite frankly, it seems like there's a lot of pin up energy and frustration in some ways from not going to games in 2020, and so the fans are pretty lively. They're at the games, but hopefully the crowds will get bigger and bigger, and as the weather here in Western New York gets better during the course of the summer, hopefully our crowds will increase.
And Josh, just one more thing before we wrap it up. I just wanted to ask you about the alternate site last year, and started in Buffalo when the Blue Jays were trying to find their home for 2020, and then it shifted to Rochester once the Blue Jays called Salem Field home. So I'm just curious, maybe the players that are on the Bisons now, if you had a chance to talk to anybody, what the alternate site was like last year in Rochester, their impressions, just going forward, what that meant for baseball in Rochester.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a great person to ask that because, that kind of coincided with when I got furloughed from the team, and I headed back to Kansas to hang out with my parents for 3 months. Our PR guy, Nate Rowan, who you know very well, was actually the clubhouse guy for the Blue Jays, or at least one of them, during their alt site. I know in talking to John Lannon, who's a mental skills coach, I believe, for the Blue Jays that spends a lot of time with Buffalo. I talked to him when the Wings were in Trenton, and he had very positive things to say about Rochester and the alt site experience. Our general manager, Dan Mason, as you know, is extremely player friendly and team friendly, and he really did the best he could to accommodate the Blue Jays. And I think they were pretty happy with how everything went. I know I'm talking to some of the people in our front office that were here for the alt site. It was interesting to hear about some of the things that they did at the alt site to simulate game conditions, like blasting the PA. I guess they really had super loud music and super loud fake crowd noise that they were playing over the PA, and they kind of kept score in some unique ways to try to simulate some game conditions. So it was kind of interesting to hear about some of the things that the Blue Jays were doing to try to help these guys and engage them as much as they could. But I know it was certainly a unique experience, that's for sure.
Well, Josh, I appreciate you taking some time today. Best of luck the rest of the way. Hope to see you again in person very soon. It was great to see you at Frontier Field the other day. And again, best of luck the rest of the season.
Thanks, Pat. Hope to see you soon.